Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. David Kennedy here, and in today's video I'm really excited to announce the launch of MuseScore 4. This launch marks the most significant and substantial update in the software's history, and like many of its users, I've been eager to get my hands on the software and delve into its new features and improved functionality. And that's what the focus of this video will be. With that in mind, there's just 4 areas in which MuseScore 4 helps me to create as a musician and empowers me to be my own muse. The 4 areas are composing my own music, arranging for secondary school ensemble or mixed ensembles, teaching music at secondary school level including score analysis and music theory, and the 4th area that I use MuseScore is writing guitar arrangements and guitar tablature. So without further delay, let's get into area 1, which is about composing your own music. So to begin with, I'm going to show you how to set up a MuseScore 4 file from scratch. In the description of this video, there are direct links to download Muse Hub and MuseScore 4. So Muse Hub is a centralized system whereby you can download all of the effects and apps that Muse Group has. So if I select this Muse Hub button up the top here, which docks to the top of your browser if you're on a Mac, you can have a look at everything that you've downloaded. So I have currently downloaded MuseScore 4, and then you can, if you want, download Audacity, StaffPad and ToneBridge. On the sounds side of things, all of the sounds that are ticked are what I've already downloaded, and I'm really excited to show you how the Muse Sound Libraries all sound, and I'll do that throughout this video. But you'll see here I've got the harp downloaded, keys, percussion, then you've got woodwinds, brass, strings, and then there's a choir one as well, and that's actually one of the scores I'm going to show you straight away. Then there's also a free suite of effects, and you'll see I have all of those downloaded too. So there's a rotary effect, Pro EQ, noise gate, chorus, compressor, pitch fix, simple EQ, reverb, a master plugin, delay plugin, and a de-esser. I'm actually using some of those effects on the voiceover you're hearing now as I talk into my mic, so I think I have the de-esser and the compressor turned on. To start off with, I'm just going to double click MuseScore 4 here, and then the loading page comes up, and I'll take you through how to make a score now. So click the new score icon. You can then choose whatever instruments you'd like. You can create from a template, or you can choose different instruments. So I'm going to just stick with treble clef for the time being. Then you'll see all of the options for your score, like the key signature, time signature, tempo, and how many measures you want. Then you can put a title, composer, select your key signature, time signature, and tempo. And you can choose to show the tempo or not. When you're done, click done, and then your new score will be there ready to go for you. A few things just to say before I get into any music writing itself. The look and feel of MuseScore 4 is very easily edited. So if I go into my preferences by pressing Command and comma, you can change the appearance very easily in this appearance tab. You can do light mode, and then you can choose which accent color. The next thing to talk about in terms of look and feel is the panel over to the left here of the screen. And we've got palettes, instruments and properties all docked in at the left there. All of these can be customized and undocked if that's what you wish to do. But just to talk you through them briefly, properties is what the inspector used to be. Instruments is what it says on the tin. You've currently got a piano with 1 treble clef, and I find that it's actually really simple and straightforward to add instruments on the fly or in real time, which doesn't cut into your creating process or your composing process. And then the palettes, again, does what the palettes did in MuseScore 3. That is, you can affect a series of parameters around the score. The one biggest workflow change I've found is this panel on the right. Having them at the fingertip here, as opposed to having to go to a view panel and changing stuff around up there, it just makes the workflow more efficient and less time consuming. A simple example of this is the show and hide options here of frames, or what the invisible or formatting features are, can be just clicked on and off. Whereas before you had to go to the view panel, and then you would have to show invisible and select that one, and so on and so forth, which was very labor intensive when all you wanted to do was see what the score looked like when it went to print. So I'm just switching back to the dark mode because that's actually what I prefer to use myself. And I'm going to show you a score that I've already created, which is called Choir and Strings Exploring Muse Sounds. This was just the first score that I made when I opened up MuseScore 4 and started to play around. And I was very intrigued to see what this choir sounded like. So that's where I started. So what I have here in the score is a soprano, alto, tenor and bass choir. And then I just put strings underneath it. Once you have those downloaded in the Muse Sounds via this Muse Hub, then what you can do is load up those instruments into the score, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. So I'll just show you little bits of how this sounds, and then I'll show you the final score in a moment. But another very interesting feature of MuseScore 4 is that you can select one bar of one part and it will only play that part. So in this case I have the soprano selected, so you'll only hear the soprano line now. And then if you wanted to hear the soprano and the alto together, and the full choir. And here's a little listen to what the strings sound like. I think you'll agree that the improvement in sound design there is a huge leap from what was in MuseScore 3. And I'm just going to show you quickly how this works. So up the top here I've got a part and I've got a mixer button. If I hit the mixer button, it shows you what's going on. So if I come over here to the sound, I would have selected here, gone to Muse Sounds, and you'll go to Muse Choir and Muse, and then to Sopranos. And that's as opposed to the original sound font, which was called MS Basic, which was the MuseScore Basic. So that's what you would hear in MuseScore 3. But with this new suite called Muse Sounds, you get all of these options. The other thing that's very interesting here in the mixer is any VST instruments that you might have can be used here now. On the audio effects part, I also have compressors using the Muse FX compressor, and I have that loaded up on all of the vocal parts. And then on the master, I've got a reverb, again using the Muse FX reverb, which sound really nice, a master plugin, and if I click this you can see what's going on. So this is called Vintage, and I just like the sound of that, and I dialed it into where I wanted. I'll let you hear all of this together now from the start, and I can do this via the play panel up here on the right, or by hitting the space bar. So one thing I do when I'm composing a lot is I work on my DAW, and I find that all of the plugins and effects that I might have in a DAW really help with the inspiration to create things in a particular way. When I was doing this composition, I really felt that having the choir sounding the way it was, and also having the strings sounding as good as they did, that really inspired me then to explore the full depth of the sound that was there. The idea of being able to pair MuseScore more fluidly with a DAW is really an exciting feature of MuseScore 4, and really excites me for where the software might lead in the future. So another very important way I use MuseScore is to create arrangements for classroom ensemble. I'm a music teacher in a secondary level school, and I often find it necessary to put together arrangements for either small choir or mixed ensembles, and that can vary depending on what students I have in front of me. The score I have loaded up here is called McLeod's Farewell, and it's a reel. I organise a traditional Irish ensemble in the school that I'm currently teaching in, and I'm going to go through a few ways in which I would arrange for that ensemble group. So here's a quick listen to what the reel sounds like, and I have the Muse Sounds harp loaded up for this. First thing to say is the reason why I have the notes input here on the score is a lot of the traditional Irish players wouldn't necessarily read sheet music straight away. So I have the notes input there to help them along with that. And actually, instead of me laboriously typing in the notes, there's a plugin called Note Names that you can use. You simply click that and it will put notes underneath the score for wherever you want. If I go back here to home and go to plugins, you'll see that's the one I have enabled. It's called Note Names. So click home, go to plugins, and then you can go to Note Names, and that can give you the plugin. And then when I'm applying the plugin, I go up to plugins tab up here, composing arranging tools, and Note Names. Very helpful for the classroom arrangements. The other thing you can do is you can select all of the notes, and then in my properties tab, I can go to notation and note, and then go to the note head. And in note head system, instead of auto, you can choose the pitch names. And that will also put a little letter name beside the pitches. I find that the note names themselves in a text format is a little bit easier to read. So now what I'm going to do is start to arrange this for a few more instruments and to show you how easy it is to add instruments to the score. So over in my instruments tab here, I'm going to add percussion. I'm going to add a piano. I'm going to add a guitar. And one more, I'll just add an accordion as well. And some of the things you can do straight away, which I found very helpful in MuseScore 4, is you can rearrange the order of the instruments by holding and dragging them to wherever you want. So I'm going to put my harp and my accordion up the top because they're going to both have the melody. If I select this melody, I can copy and paste it then. And then on my mixer, I can turn down the accordion, make sure that they're equal in sound. I'm going to add in a drum rhythm. And you see down below, the most common drum parts are accessed with letter names on the QWERTY keyboard.
20 minutes later.
So now with the arrangement taking shape, I just want to show you a few more things you can do once you have arranged for your school ensemble. So the parts function has been made a little bit simpler as well than it was in MuseScore 3. If I select the parts button up here now, I can open all, which will create a separate part for all of the different instruments. So you can see here, here's the accordion part, acoustic guitar, drum set, piano, and harp. Or if I wanted to create a part now with a few of the instruments selected, I'll hit create new part. I can rename it, let's say guitar, piano, and harp. And then open selected. And then in my instruments panel, I can open up what I selected there. And that will be a part that's just guitar, piano, and harp. And then I can save or upload that to wherever I need it to be. Another interesting thing to say about the saving option is if I hit save as, it will ask me, do I want to save it on my computer or whether I want to save it to the cloud. I'm going to save it to the cloud, hit save on that. It'll export the audio of that, and then I'm going to be able to view it online. So once it processes, it'll be uploaded to MuseScore.com. And on MuseScore.com, then you could share the link, this link here, with your students. Even though it's private, once you share the link with them, they'll be able to access this. And if they want to practice along then individually, they can have that option. They can also download the MuseScore file from here, if they have MuseScore, or they can print out separate parts, whatever suits them, or download the PDF at that point. This will also play it long. And they can adjust things like the tempo, which will help with the practicing along. I think when you use software in a classroom, accessibility is one of the most important features. And in this context, I'm using MuseScore as a tool to help facilitate a performance. So in this next section of the video, I'm going to detail how I use MuseScore as a teaching device to help students navigate through large-scale symphonic works. The example I'm using today is Romeo and Juliet Fantasy Overture by Tchaikovsky. And then I just want to show you as well how you can make worksheets from scratch within MuseScore. I use MuseScore to create worksheets quite a bit, and I feel it might be a lesser known use of MuseScore while preparing music lessons. So here we are inside the Romeo and Juliet Fantasy Overture score, which is a full symphonic orchestra. I have a list of specific features that I want to point out here within the score. The first thing I want to note about this score is I did not transcribe this work into MuseScore, and it's why I'm very grateful if I switch over here to musescore.com that this guy here, Samuel Gilstrap, and I hope I've pronounced that correctly, he's done just that. And to his credit, he's published it on musescore.com, so it's available there to view. And if you're a member on musescore.com, which I am, you can actually download that score by hitting the download button, and you can then get it as a MuseScore file or as a music XML, MIDI, audio, or PDF. So like I said, I'm extremely grateful that that was available to download. This work is a prescribed work on the current Leaving Cert course in Ireland, which is the course that I teach to senior students at secondary school level. The other set works, or the prescribed works that are on the course, are Bach's Cantata 78, and that's also available on musescore.com. So the reason why I've downloaded those into MuseScore format is that if my own students have MuseScore, they can easily navigate through the score and see all of the themes and whatever else I need them to learn about the score in real time. And it's a bit more interactive than a PDF of the score or a paperback version of the score, because as you're reading, you can highlight and hear different elements of the score. So it's incredibly useful as a teaching tool. So then, to just highlight a few other things here in the appearance of the score. On the properties panel, when nothing is selected, you have all of these show parameters. So you can show what's visible or invisible. And then if this empty staves is turned off, then what will happen is in any part of the score where instruments are sitting out for a long period of time, when this is off, as it is here, or the eye is closed, it would hide those staves. So if I open this up quickly, you'll see now that all of the brass section empty bars are in now. And it's advisable to keep this eye closed to hide those empty staves so that the reading of the score is just much easier. Another helpful tip is that these system dividers can be placed by hitting the style settings, going to system, and then making sure that this box is selected. Then it appears on the score every time there's a system break. Again, I'm thinking here of ways to make a big, large-scale work like this more manageable to read and easier to read for students. The other thing to say here is that accessibility and inclusion is extremely important when bringing software into a classroom. The idea that MuseScore is free and that it's easily downloadable on any device really makes it a winner in terms of being able to incorporate this into my own teaching. Okay, so now a few more things. So if I open up this frames panel here on the show property, you'll see that there's little frames here, if I zoom in, circulating all this text. And the reason why I have introduction bars 1 to 111 and then the main theme that's involved in that section of the work to highlight to students the most important features of the work. This frame can be filled with any text that you want: text, title, subtitle, composer, lyricist, part name, or image. And if you had more details of the score that you wanted to include, it's very easy to annotate the score using those text frames. How you insert one is you select a bar, go to palettes, go to the layout tab, and then click the insert vertical frame. And the vertical frame will be placed above the system of whatever bar you've selected. Very simple and easy to do. And then later on you'll see as well I have the exposition when that kicks off and what bars are involved, and the first subject being the strife theme, the second subject the love theme, and so on. And this again keeps students focused on where they need to be focusing their attention. The next thing I'd like to point out is the instruments panel, and it's very easy now in MuseScore 4 to hide and show certain instruments. In a classroom context, if I wanted to just focus in on the clarinet and the bassoons, because they have the opening theme and nothing else is playing, I can select everything that isn't the bassoons and clarinet. So I'll do from horns, I'll select shift and hold that down and then press the I to close all of them down together. So now you can see it's just the clarinets and bassoons that are selected. Another thing that I want to show you is a new feature in MuseScore 4, which allows you to just hear the instrument that's selected. So now all you'll hear is clarinets. The other thing you can teach from here is the idea of concert pitch versus transposing instruments. The bassoons read a concert pitch and they're harmonizing the main theme here. So it looks as though the main theme is starting on a C note and going up, rising up to a C major scale. But in fact, this piece is in F sharp minor to begin with. And when I toggle on down the bottom here of the page, if I toggle on the concert pitch feature, this is a really good way for students to conceptualize and understand the idea of transposing instruments. The other thing I can do from here with the instruments, with the only instruments that I want to show, is if I wanted to create a video analysis of this, I can separate out the woodwind section or whatever section of the orchestra I want, and then I could screen record in a continuous horizontal view as the score would play along like this. And that's in fact what I've done for each of the instruments. And there's a nice little grayed out section here that comes up on the left hand side to show you what instrument is still playing. The last thing I want to say is actually a suggestion I would have for hiding and showing the instruments. At the minute you can select multiple instruments by holding shift and doing that, but a really cool thing to introduce I think would be being able to hold down command on a Mac or control on a Windows PC and selecting a range that wasn't consecutive but rather individual. The other thing that would be very interesting to see, held down Option or Alt on a Windows PC and selected one of the hide or shows, it would be great to get it to only show or hide that one instrument and by default disable the other ones. I'm stealing this idea from DaVinci Resolve, and I'll just show you quickly how that works in some of the projects that I've worked on before in that. In this video editor, what you've got is a lot of different video tracks here, but if I wanted to only see that and disable all the other ones, all I have to do on my Mac is hold down Option and click it again, and then everything else gets disabled and it's visible. And if I do the exact same thing now again, it will do the opposite. So I'm holding an Option, selecting it again, now everything else is visible and it's disabled. So I think that could be an interesting addition to how the show or hide instruments toggles on and off. And on that point, I just want to highlight that the forums on MuseScore.com and the help forums and the suggesting of features, that is a whole area of MuseScore that's very active. I find that the users community is really helpful and interested in improving the app from a community basis. And I find that the people working there are also very responsive to any ideas and suggestions from the user community. Now I'm going to hop on to quickly show you how you go about making a worksheet style score in MuseScore. So I'm going to name this one Melody Writing, and all of the features here are fine for right now. So in this concept, I'm going to be teaching a junior set of students how to write a 4-bar phrase. So if I select the bar line after the 4th bar and press return, I can set up that it's only 4 bars long here. Let's keep the first example in C major. And then what I'm going to do is select all of the rests within this bar and hit V to make them invisible. And then with nothing selected and I go to my properties panel, I can actually hide and show what's visible or invisible. Also the formatting here where I hit return can be hidden. The next thing I'm going to do is press Command and K, and that allows me to put in a chord symbol. So I'm going to have my students compose a melody that fits this chord. I'm going to set it up that it's going to be the final 4 bars of a piece. So I'm going to put a double bar line on here, go to my palettes, I go to bar lines, and I put in a double bar line even. The other thing I want to include here is Roman numerals underneath the score. So in C major, this will be Roman numeral 1, chord 2, chord 5, and chord 1. And I'm going to show you quickly how to set up a shortcut to do this. So if I press Command and comma on Mac, it gives me the preferences, opens up the preferences. Go down to the shortcuts tab. I'm going to search in Roman numeral analysis, double click that, and then I'm going to set this to be Shift or. So I'm going to overwrite what it previously was and hit OK. Now underneath here I can press Shift and OR, and I can insert my Roman numeral analysis. Now what students will have to do is compose a melody that goes along with this chord progression. If I wanted to do a series of these activities and I wanted this to be number 1 and the next 4 bars to be activity 2, and I wanted to change key signatures, here's how I do that. Select the bar line of the end of the first 4 bars, go into layout again, and then section break. If we click this, the next one can be the key signature can be changed here to G major, and there won't be any cautionary accidental here because this is considered to be 2 separate pieces or 2 separate sections. Again, I can set up the bar line here, and I can choose a different chord progression. Again, I'll hide all of these rests because the idea is I would be printing this out and having the students compose in their own. There's actually loads of opportunities and ways to create worksheets using this type of method. The other thing I've used in the past is using the vertical frames to ask a series of questions about a melody that's below, to analyze a melody, or to do other bits and pieces on analysis and music theory. So I find it to be a very helpful way of creating worksheets relatively quickly. So now we're going to move on to the very last section of the video, which is about writing up guitar tabs and arranging for guitar in MuseScore. So the final way that I use MuseScore is for creating guitar tabs using guitar tablature and sheet music. First thing to say about it is editing tabs and music for guitar is very simple in MuseScore, particularly if you want to use a free option. MuseScore is very stable and very reliable for doing this sort of thing, and it's also now made very intuitive in MuseScore 4. So I'm going to dive into showing you some of the features that make it more intuitive now, and I have a score set up ready to do that. For the last little while I've been doing the thing on my social media channels where I'm taking an intro, a famous piano intro, and scoring it and transcribing it onto guitar. It's actually helped me loads in terms of learning how arpeggios and voicing sit on the piano versus a guitar. But here is Halo, the intro to Halo, which is obviously normally on piano, and it sounds a bit like this. So as you can hear, that's not using any particular VST instrument to do that, although I'm very excited if there is going to be a release. I'm not sure if there is. So this is using the sound font, the MS Basic, the MuseScore Basic sound font. And again, to toggle that on and off, all I did was click the mixer. Just a few things to say. Over in the palettes section, there is a guitar palette which has all of the notation and all of the labelings that you might need for guitar fingering and so on. They also have fingering palette, a fretboards diagram palette. So I've left some things off here on purpose. I'm just going to add in those now. So for instance, I need a capo here on bar 2, a capo on the 9th fret. So I'm going to select the range that you need the capo for, and then in my guitar palette I can select here. Now it's currently set to the wrong thing, so I select that, go to my properties, go to text, and set it to bar 9. You'll also see that whatever I'm doing up here is happening down below, and that's because in the instruments tab here, you'll see that the guitar has a treble clef, and what we have here is a linked stave. So to create a linked stave, I'll just show you by setting this up again. So let's say if we added a stave and we have the same situation here, so this is another guitar one. So with this new guitar stave input, all I have to do to create a link stave for this is select the settings cog and create link stave, and now there's a link stave below here, and I can change what type of or what style that is by switching it to tablature here in the stave type. There's options here for ukulele, all different types of instruments, so there's a huge range of option in what you can do here. Inputting the notes is very straightforward as well. If I just recreate this, if I put, this is A, B, A, G sharp, so A up the octave, command up, B, A, G sharp, and you'll see that the notes come in here. Let's, for argument's sake, if this was the wrong string or was on the wrong string, you can easily get the same note by dragging this number down. And if you wanted to just input the other way around, so input the tab first, select where you want to put it in, enter note input mode by hitting N on the keyboard, and now whatever string you're on, put in the number fret you need, One final thing I would like to show you is this arrangement needs the low 6th string to be tuned to D, to the note D, so it's called drop D tuning. So if I wanted to indicate that on the score, I would select the top note, I'd go into my text, system text, and then I can double click this to edit it. 6th string equals D. And the tab knows this because if I go into here, and then within the tab itself, I've gone to edit string data, and I've set the 6th string to D here in edit string data. The very final thing is another feature suggestion that I have myself, and I thought I'd take the opportunity to say it in the video here. I've already mentioned how responsive the community and developers are within MuseScore. I've also put in a feature request, and I think down the line after the initial MuseScore 4 is out, I can see this being an area that they tackle more fully. But if you press P at the minute on your keyboard, this shows up the piano. My suggestion would be that there is a guitar style version of this where anybody who wants to put in tablature, it can be made more efficient by selecting frets and strings on an overlay like the piano that they have here. And also what would be really helpful is as it plays back here that it would have an option to play on the guitar or keyboard in this case. So as it plays, you would see the notes being selected. While I'm in this guitar section of the video, I just wanted to show you another really cool thing that's come with MuseScore 4. This is downloadable and free effects called Muse FX that you can freely use in any program that supports VST3 plugins. And I just have a little snippet of me playing using those effects to let you hear what they sound like. But again, it's a very exciting new venture for MuseScore to go into that space of VST3, and I just know it's going to grow from strength to strength. So really excited to see where that leads. So that's it for today's video. I hope you found something useful in my deep dive of MuseScore 4. Into the future, I know that MuseScore 4 is going to be an invaluable tool in my creator toolkit, and I really do hope you see the creative potential of MuseScore 4 for helping you in your own creative process and enabling you to be your own muse. I just want to take the opportunity now to thank Muse Group and MuseScore 4 for inviting me to be a part of the launch. They've been incredible partners to work with, and I'm just really grateful for the opportunity. Direct links to download the software are in the description box below, along with links on how to set up Muse Hub and how to install MuseScore 4 correctly onto whatever device you happen to be using. And there's also a tutorial playlist of how-to videos to get you started in MuseScore 4. Thank you so much for watching. This has been David Kennedy, and I'll see you in the next one.